I feel like there was something I was going to start with, but after Saturday's main event, we ended the last episode of Gladiator Diaries being like, well, we're going to have some stuff to talk about, and
I've got something else to start with. Don't know if
oh,
you
okay,
noticed. I'm not wearing a hat. Do you know
okay,
what I mean? This is the first episode I've
is it
had
the first one?
just with the mop being cleaned up because man's looking fresh. Anyways, I didn't. Yeah, I just thought I'd do my own little cameo for the beginning there. So off to you, sir. Just to
No,
start in a different manner, you know.
I want to go. I want to go back to this, and we'll get to Sean Strickland in a little bit. First of all, how many hats do you own? Are you like a one
I
hat
mean,
guy that you that goes with
do you know what?
everything? Or?
I've been given about 4 or 5 different hats from One Athletic, which is a sponsor of mine, and they are sick. Like I swear to God, I literally just throw a different one on every single time, like thinking which outfit goes with what. The amount of UFC hats I have is literally you can't even count it on hands. It's literally just all on a massive stack over there. I don't even get to wear all of them. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's mainly when I have a bad hair day. Slap the hat on, easy work. Don't have to worry about the hair, especially when it gets like really long, and I kind of just don't want people to see it. So that's the best way to hide it.
I'm in the exact same boat. That's the same reason I wear hats. If I'm like, nah, I can't be bothered today with trying
Yeah,
to sort that
exactly. You
out.
can't be bothered to do your hair. Here we go. Slap a hat on. I'm still looking good. Still looking fly. So we're all good.
How many do you get? One hat like a new one every time you fight.
Two, two new
Two.
ones. One for the
Oh,
walkout and one for the kit bag. Yeah. So we
nice.
get two
That's pretty good.
fresh hats every single time. That's why I've decided to give them away as of recently, to like training partners and stuff.
Do the new ones have the? Well, I say new ones, not that new, but do they have the 30th anniversary on them as well?
No, they do not. They're just like
Hmm.
standard Venom ones, but the gloves are different. The gloves have the 30, the green on the inside and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. I haven't kept a pair yet because I've been giving them all. Next one is mine. Next one, you lot, hands off. Those gloves are mine.
Do you because I imagine I can't remember when the Venom deal came in, but when you first fought in the UFC, it was still Reebok, right?
It was still Reebok, yeah. I
Which
have to
ones do you
admit,
prefer?
the quality is so much better with Venom, so much better, and I much prefer it as well. I think Reebok was still sort of trending with the CrossFit gear,
Yeah.
and they were kind of going off the designs off of those things, so it's quite basic. Whereas Venom's a bit more like flashy, a bit more, do you know what I mean? A little bit more eccentric, just like my personality. So that's why I like them more, obviously. But yeah, in terms of like the whole, obviously Venom, they pay us more and stuff like this. So it's actually, I just like the designs. They're cool. It's you'd think, oh, such a massive brand like Reebok, should be, sort of innovating a little bit, I guess you could say. But I feel like Venom's doing that job very well.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I remember when it got announced, people were expecting like a huge sporting company, like as much as Reebok, like you knew that it probably wasn't going to be Reebok again. You expected something along the same kind of lines, and then for Venom to come out, which is like, oh, like no one saw that coming. But I think they've done a. I don't know if you've seen, they've got a new fight kit starting this weekend where it's like I saw I think it was Tracy Cortez was like modeling it for them for the event this weekend, and it's like way more like snakeskin designed and stuff. It looks pretty
Well,
good.
god damn, I'm looking forward to that then.
Yeah,
Bloody hell, look at that. Get me that
let me.
fresh kit, mate.
I'm gonna see if I can pull this up real quick, so that we can get your reaction to it. But you must have so much of that stuff just lying around, though.
Oh, mate, now I do. And especially because I know I'm going to be in the blue corner for my next fight again. So I'm going to be getting exactly the same stuff. This is why I literally gave my whole kit back to my training partner after my last fight, because he's my size. This is the only issue. It's like I'm saying, oh yeah, I'll give all my stuff away. Now listen, if I was a bantamweight or maybe like a featherweight, whatever lightweight, you could actually just give it to people because most people are around that size. But me, I mean, there's not that many people that are light heavyweights out here. Do you know what I mean? Not many people with quite the bicep circumference. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm only joking. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's harder to give it away because my size isn't going to fit most people. So yeah, like I have to continue think like, who can I give this one to? Do you know what I mean? So and yeah, because I just don't want 2 or 3 pairs of the same. Cause do you know what it is? There's always a thought. It's like, I'm getting new shit. Do I just want to keep like loads of new stuff and just keep wearing new stuff? But it's like it's exactly the same as I don't know. It's like I get all excited. It's like, oh look, this is brand new. This has come straight out of the packet. And then
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm like, well, it's the same like the last one. I might as well just give it away, you know. So now, because I used to wonder, like, why are UFC fighters giving away all this stuff? Like, sure, like this stuff is sick. I'm going to keep it. But then you realize, yeah, if you've been in the same corner, like in the blue corner or the red corner, or whatever, every single time you're going to be getting exactly the same stuff. So it's kind of like, I've already had it. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let me see if I can share this screen.
How's the nose looking, by the way?
Oh, it looks great, mate. You like, I mean, the first episode we did, you still had it like bandaged up and stuff. So the change has been visible.
I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Modeling contracts, hit me up, yeah. So go on, show us. Oh, okay.
It's like small, and
what a
my
better person to
computer.
show it off, eh?
Tracy Cortez, what a fighter!
What a better person to show it off. But yeah, now that looks sick. To be fair,
Yeah.
wow, I'm liking that.
Yeah, I like
Sick.
what they've done.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, mate. So it looks like I am going to be getting some new stuff next time I come around. So
there you go. There you go.
Good. All more excitement. Yeah, the fight is great, but the kit, I mean, come on now. That's what we're really fighting.
Yeah. I remember. I think it was in his like pre-press conference. Sean Strickland said about how it might have been after the fight, actually, about how like fighting for him is just to fund his hobby, which is training. Like that's the part that he loves the most. But you're funding just for the wardrobe. Like
I'm just funding, mate. Listen, I don't have to buy anything. I've got all my sports gear kitted out. Do you know what I mean? And then every time you wear it, everyone's like, "Oh, are you in the UFC?" I'm like, "Well, I might be." And then you got a bit of the stardom coming out there a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Getting some of the attention. But nah, to be honest with you, it's just nice, like literally not having to worry about. I swear, I've been involved in so many sports teams that a lot of the stuff I get is for free. Like, you know, people are like buying all their like new kits on like Gym King and this and that. I'm like, just get the UFC gear. Do you know what I mean? They're hooking me up out here, so it's good. That's definitely one part that I enjoy of being in the UFC. That's for sure.
You mentioned it briefly then, which I don't think we've ever spoken about. But what other sports did you used to play?
American football, and basketball. Basketball was my main one, and then American football kind of just sort of just thought, let me give it a shot, and then I ended up being all right at it. So I ended up starting for the team, which is very like to be a starter on any team, you've got to be pretty good. So I'm guessing they thought I was all right, even though I didn't even know half the rules. That's why they put me as a defensive end, because it's the most easiest to pick up. So. But yeah, man. I mean, it was an interesting time. I reckon if I would have continued playing American football, I might have done all right. But I'm kind of glad that I did it and then went back to MMA, because ultimately, I think the things that I learned from basketball and American football did translate to MMA for sure in terms of athleticism.
Would you ever join in one of the like UFC basketball games that they do? I mean, I don't think they're going to do them anymore.
I mean, listen,
Jamal Hill got injured, didn't he? So,
well, I mean, listen, I would have to just practice a lot, because do you know what I find is when I pick up a basketball, I just get very rusty. Like I'm very rusty, but then as soon as I start playing for like, you know, hour, two, whatever, 1, 2, a couple of days, then I'm all right again. So I'll just need to make sure I get prepped up before that. But yeah, I mean, obviously it is a dangerous sport. You got to be careful. I don't want to get my Achilles ruptured, mate. So I'll just stay on the outside shooting threes. You know what I mean? Got the Lithuanian blood with the basketball. So I don't know if you saw Lithuania beat the USA the other day. I think it was in the FIBA World Cup or something. So Lithuania are pretty good at basketball. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I mean, you know, Lithuania, for such a small country, I think they're ranked like 4th in the world.
Damn.
You never know that, would you?
No, never would have guessed. Never would have guessed. Who do you reckon is on the UFC roster is a bit of a baller? I've seen clips of DC because Jamal Hill was making fun of him. And
Well,
that's
so
the
clearly
only person.
Jamal Hill must be a good basketball player. I think Kevin Holland. I don't know if I saw that right. I'm not 100% sure. Um, yeah, I'm not sure who else like played.
Didn't didn't
Cyril
that's who I
Gahn's
was
a name.
gonna say. He used to actually play like and got
Yeah,
like pretty far, I think.
yeah. So that's another one. But obviously, look how tall he is. Look how athletic he is. And obviously, I'm pretty sure he knows how to dribble pretty well and shoot. Yeah, I mean he's dunking. So fair play to the guy. I was
Yeah.
dunking back in the day. I'm not sure if I could do it now, but I do remember I did a clip that I put on my Instagram, me dunking the basketball in Abu Dhabi and Fight Island. So, who knows if I could do it now?
Mm.
Don't really want to try it, to be fair, at the minute. Maybe after the fight.
Yeah, maybe. Um, I don't know. I don't know how there is any kind of segue between basketball to get to Sean Strickland. So we're just going to go straight into talking about that instead. I don't think
Roll into
in
it. Just roll into it, mate.
there's no
Don't
way
worry.
those two things relate. Like I've got nothing on that one. But as I said at the very start of the podcast, we ended episode 3 by being like, well, whatever happens, we're gonna have a lot to talk about from this fight. And yeah, I mean, it's different because we record these podcasts towards the end of the week. You know, a lot of people have already said everything about this fight and stuff, so it makes more sense to kind of talk about the upcoming fights rather than the ones that happened last weekend that most people are kind of, they've already
Yeah.
heard takes on. But when you have a fight as shocking as Sean Strickland beating Israel Adesanya, then I feel like we have to talk about it because we spoke about it last week and it, everyone was surprised. But to see Sean Strickland outstrike Israel Adesanya for 4 rounds and drop him,
Mm.
crazy. Like,
I'll tell you what the issue was for Adesanya. Not saying that he doesn't have good wrestling, but he doesn't normally use any type of wrestling techniques. And so it basically just means Strickland can stay upright, keep coming forward, and keep throwing punches without the fear of the takedown.
mm,
And if you're throwing kicks a lot, he's obviously trying to just keep his lead foot a little bit light so he can block all this. He literally blocked so many kicks. Blocked it with this Philly shell type stance as well. He's got like a forward facing Philly shell stance, which is weird. You
mm,
don't see that in MMA, but he makes it work for himself. He throws out the jab really nicely. And that jab set up all of the rest of his shots. Izzy like doing a check hook, and that's where he got dropped. He just went straight down the pipe, straight down the middle. That completely took out his check hook and just went, straight down the middle. So it was really, people say, oh, well, Izzy had an off night and this and that. Well, look, at the end of the day, styles makes fights. And I think that style was just very hard for Izzy to overcome. And he's had a lot of fights. He's fought a lot. That style in particular is just like very hard for him to set up it because he wasn't even biting too many on too many of the fakes either. So that just made it hard to do any sort of game plan from there. Catching kicks as well, it was mad. Catching kicks all the time. So everything that Israel Adesanya wanted to do, couldn't do it because Sean Strickland was essentially just countering everything. And yeah, the massive thing for me is if you're not threatening a takedown, someone can literally just walk you down the whole time. So that's what made it difficult for Adesanya that fight.
it's so crazy because the whole build up to the fight, the one fight that everyone kept referencing the whole time was look what Alex Pereira did to Sean Strickland, right? And then in the end, if you were gonna say like what is the biggest like advantage that Strickland had, it's the lessons he learned against Alex Pereira. Like if he had
Yeah,
walked Pereira down in that same way, of course, I think the other issue that Izzy had is that he doesn't have that one punch power that's gonna, he's insanely accurate, which I think is where people maybe forget that he is dangerous, but he doesn't have that fear factor that an Alex Pereira has, where when he starts fainting, you go, if I get hit by this, it is over.
but what is mad though? I know you say that, and I've heard other my friends say that as well. Oh, he's just not got the knockout power, but How can you say that when what he did to Robert Whittaker, one punch, like okay, not like completely out cold, yeah, but I'm
Yeah,
talking like dazed, yeah, gone on the floor, no chance of getting up. Paulo Costa, same thing. You got do you know what I mean? Even in the Pereira rematch, that right hand like had him like this, and then bang, done. So, you know, I think to say that he hasn't got any knockout power, um, clearly, I mean, you know, even against Derek Brunson, he dropped him many times. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't even throw it that hard. He didn't like throw it with a massive intent. He just threw it. He's
yeah,
dropping him many times. So mechanically, maybe from what you're saying is that actually is that mechanically he's got like good movements. You know, he's
hmm
ergonomically in the right positions with the right, you know what I mean, to fire off a shot that's gonna be painful. It's gonna hurt them. So yeah, maybe he doesn't have like raw, like you know, kind of. But I don't think he's even throwing with like full intent all the time. He's kind of just trying to
yeah,
pick, and then bang. Do you know what I mean? He's like kind of aiming, and then maybe one shot goes a little bit tougher, but he's not loading up that much. Whereas Francis Ngannou, you can see, you know, he's loading up a lot, and then obviously when he lands, boy, does he land.
yeah. I agree with you. I find it crazy when people say that Adesanya isn't dangerous because of all the reasons you just listed. Like I remember everyone spoke about Kelvin Gastelum's chin when they fought and how tough he was, but he got dropped like I think 2 or 3 times in the fight. Like, but it's just the when you watch the fights he had with Alex Pereira, and Pereira can land those like little short hooks and stuff like that, and those are devastating. But you look at
Yeah.
every time Izzy hurt Pereira, it was those like right at the end of the punch, beautiful placement and stuff like that. I think that's the difference with the Strickland one is he doesn't have that left hook Pereira caught Strickland with. Izzy wouldn't land that kind of strike, but
And
he's
do you know
also not
what?
throwing that kind of strike. So you know, maybe he could. I don't know, but
Do you know what? Another interesting point that I just thought of now is that um, Izzy likes to throw check hooks. He doesn't really like to throw aggressive hooks.
mm,
It from what we've seen in most of his fights. Maybe you know he does but in the fights he throws more counter hooks. Yeah, Pereira throws an aggressive attacking hook. Yeah, so that was the difference. You see, when Izzy was trying to throw that hook against Strickland, he came forward with the cross, whereas Pereira came in with his hook. So it's almost like Strickland went into the shot because he was aggressive with the hook.
mm.
Adesanya wasn't aggressive with the hook; he was defensive with the hook. So that's what made it difficult for Izzy to land in that particular fight. Whereas for Pereira, I mean, it landed right on cue.
Do you think that this is something I've been hearing this week is that Izzy's success in that style is almost causing him issues now because he doesn't have. I've never seen him fight any other way, and he doesn't need to. He's been a world champion and made 5 title defenses. Like it works. But against a guy like Strickland, where he just, you know, you could see that he was frustrated not being able to land anything. He doesn't have like a switch to go. I'm just going to meet this guy in the middle, and I'm not going to step away when I throw every shot. And like even the 5th round where he was like, all right, let's do this, it was still very like, I'm going to get out the way. I'm going to catch him on the end, which again, he's one of the best in the world we've ever seen at that style. Like he doesn't need to necessarily change. But I think it's the same thing you said about he doesn't have a threat, like a second threat to get you with. So if you can work that style out, that's kind of his game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess with Adesanya, he's trying to get reads, get feeds, get bites off the fakes, and land his favorite strikes. He just had no space to work. So potentially maybe some clinch work would have done him wonders. Do you know what I mean? Because he's got kickboxing. I mean, you know, I don't know what his knees and elbows in the clinch are like because we haven't really seen it too much. But you know,
No.
surely he's going to be well versed in those areas. that could have completely negated that stuff, moved him away, bang, fake. And then next thing you know, you're adding on layers. But look, we can sit here and talk about, oh, he should have done this, he should have done that. At the end of the day, obviously he was in there doing, out there performing. And at that given moment, at that given time, within that, that present moment for him, obviously it was just too much in terms of Strickland's pressure, which was, it was very crazy to see, because other pressure fighters like Brad Tavares, Adesanya dealt with quite handily, so it's just, I think they're in the same camp as well, Tavares and Strickland.
Yeah, I
I'm
think you
pretty
might be
sure.
right. Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
he is, yeah.
but, like I say, on the day, maybe you just look, when one thing goes wrong, when one thing goes wrong, it makes it hard to adjust. Like, for example, when I tripped on the cage in the Zach Pauga fight, it's very hard to recover. Like if something goes wrong that you don't expect. Look, like in the first round with Strickland, he got caught with that shot and got dropped. What was it, near towards the end of the round? But still, how mentally are you going to try and, like, it's hard to recover from something like that, and to try and then you come back to like almost second nature. Sometimes it's harder to adjust. You come back to like, what do I do normally? What do I do? Do you know what I mean? So it's a hard thing, man. This fighting game is crazy. It will throw curveballs at you from left, right, and center, and it's up to us as fighters to try and figure out the tendencies and figure out basically. So in my eyes, it obviously wasn't his best performance, but I think he deserved a rematch. I know they want the middleweight division to move on and stuff like this, but he was the champion for such a long time. Lost it, won it back. So I think in this case it probably should be a very similar deal, and then we'll see how he can adapt to that style in the next fight. And then if Strickland wins again, then fair play to him. But Strickland done well on the day to do what he had to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The other, I guess, talking point from the weekend, from the actual fights at least, would be the guy that we spoke about last week as well, Tyson Pedro. Of course, the opponent that you flew out to Australia to fight, and we spoke about him having a tough time in the UFC, and people saying that he hasn't lived up to his potential and stuff. And one of his best performances in the UFC to date. Like, I thought that his striking looked way better than it has in the past. I mean, I know that he's been really dedicating himself to city kickboxing, I think in the last year or so, like full-time training there as opposed to every now and then and stuff. And it seemed to be paying off for him.
Yeah, he definitely looked very good out there. He looked very sharp. Turkali did come out quite aggressive at the beginning of the fight. He managed to pick his shots, find that right hand, and then next thing you know, do what he had to do. Didn't want none of the ground whatsoever. He just wanted to almost stand and bang, and he definitely took advantage of that. However, I must point out that there's a lot of talk about saying that the fight against me, we can just shove that one to the side. We can write that one off. That was an anomaly. What do you mean that was an anomaly? I won. When people thought I beat Oleg Shaychuk, but I lost. That's a loss. I accept it. I lost. Okay, cool. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, whether I got more shots or I rocked the guy, whatever, so what? I lost. It is what it is. You know what I mean? You just got kind of... I think a lot of people are now completely discrediting the win that I had against him because of some stomach virus. Why is there always an excuse when you lose? Do you know what I'm saying? I was very respectful. I've always said that he's an incredible athlete. He's a very, very talented guy. Clearly, when he's on point, he's on point. We all have off days in the cage, but at the end of the day, do you know what? Congrats to you. Well done. You won. Fair play. I lost. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. We live to fight another day, which he did. He lived to fight another day. But to then just say, oh, yeah, well, I had a stomach bug, so that's why I didn't perform. Because you knocked the next guy out, you're just going to blame all of that loss on the stomach bug. I mean, I get it, but does anyone take into account what I had to go through? I took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. I was literally out drinking the weekend beforehand. Do you know what I mean? I was out with Will, and then I got the call on Wednesday. Luckily, obviously, I'm always training, so I was always on weight. I've mentioned this before. But I must mention it again because keeps cropping up. You know, I got to Australia at 4 a.m. on Wednesday, and I had to fight on Sunday at 10 a.m. I mean, what's that? It was my birthday, the day that I was cutting weight, and then the next day was the weigh-ins. So, I'm all about, at the end of the day, we're martial artists. I'm all about being respectful. He was very respectful to me. He was very nice to me. I showed him respect also. He's a great guy. I can't say nothing bad about him. But to completely discredit my talent and what I had to go through, to come back from everything, to go and beat him in his hometown, to now blame it on some stomach bug, I think is a little bit unfair. Well, I say a little bit unfair. It's very unfair. It's completely basically saying, oh, yeah, well, that didn't even happen. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, fight's a fight. You know what I mean? I understand he was like, oh, well, I didn't want to pull out of the fight. Well, I mean, clearly you mustn't have felt that bad. Do you know what I mean? Your coaches would have pulled you out if that was the case. And it's like, okay, cool. So what? I'm in the UFC. I don't care. Like, they would have found me someone else anyways if it was like 2-3 days in advance or whatever. Or even if they didn't, I'm on the roster now. We can rebook. Do you know what I'm saying? So obviously they thought, they probably thought, I'm quite an easy target. And then next thing you know, it just flipped around. It's just how the fight game goes. Sometimes you think, like, against Khalil, I thought I was going to do a lot better than what I did. And unfortunately, it just so happens that I didn't. Do you know what I mean? I didn't mention anything about my injury until after the fact because, to be honest, it was because people kept on, like, bringing up their issues. Everyone's got issues in camp. Everyone's got problems. Do you know what I mean? We just get on with it. At the end of the day, what happens in the cage happens in the cage. We just get on with it. We move on. So what? Like, look, I've lost. Other people have lost. So yeah, like I say, I've had my piece on this now. Once again, great guy, very respectful. Welcomed me as well. Like, he was a good guy, and he still is a good guy. But for everyone to discredit my win, that's not fair. And I am also very talented. I'm looking to get towards the top 15. So when I do get to the top 15, it ain't going to be no surprise to people. So, like I say, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, I
Even though
think
he had a good win.
He did look good. But I think that's the interesting thing about doing this show in the first place is, like, most people, even if they know of both of you guys and they watch your fight and then they watch Tyson Pedro, they'll hear him speak and go, "Oh yeah, okay, no, maybe that's why he looks so much better because of the thing." And okay, we're on to a new, let's put that in the past and we'll move on and stuff. And you forget how these things affect, like, as fans, you see that and you go, "Okay, all right, I'm excited to see the fully fit Tyson Pedro from now on." Like, this is exciting. And you forget that there's a guy that fought him a few months ago that has a win, who's like, that was the biggest fight of your career back into the UFC, and it's like, oh, he was ill.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most interesting thing about doing this is, like, you get the different perspective.
Of course, he was fighting, so they have to big him up and stuff like this. And it's for promotion. I get it. Like, this is part of the game, man. Like, I completely get it. I'm no stranger to that. Of course, you have to put yourself in a position to be able to sell yourself and of course, like, you're gonna feel like that. You're gonna feel reinvigorated. You just went out there and knocked someone out. Of course you're gonna feel on top of the world and think, oh well, that wasn't my best performance. But all of us have to deal with certain things in our lives and leading up into fights. So at the end of the day, I think it's just best just to, do you know what, that's it. What's done is done. I lost that fight. That's cool. But now I'm on a different road. Cool, perfect. That's absolutely fine. But to discredit the win, that's not on. That's where I feel like, do you know what? Okay, don't you worry. Next couple of fights, I'll show my true skill set as well, because I feel like in certain fights I haven't shown the best of myself. So that's fine. We'll keep training. We'll keep getting better, and we'll go and pick them off one by one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's It's a crazy game, this fight game, man. I tell you.
Do you find like that kind of stuff like as motivating as people being like, "Oh, I love watching you fight" and stuff like that? Like the just either people being doubters for whatever reason. I remember literally when we first spoke about doing this podcast, you were on about the people saying that Zach Pauger got robbed against you and things like that. Like I would imagine it's a real thin line between letting that annoy you and take energy away from you or using it as motivation. Like how do
Yeah.
you kind of like reframe things like that in order to get you motivation rather than taking away from your time?
To be honest, it's all white noise, really, isn't it? At the end of the day, all that matters is what's in between the ears. I think the way I like to, like, some people think hate and anger and, are bad emotions. Yeah, I mean, if it's uncontrolled, they're bad emotions. But I think to use like kind of that, a bit of the chip on the shoulder, a bit of that anger, that kind of intensity, because people are chatting crap about you. Do you know what? I think that's a great thing to use. It's a great thing to use to fuel to your fire, And I think that's what fueled my comeback as well. The amount of people told me I was never coming back. The amount of people told me I'll never be a Cage Warriors champion again. The amount of people that said I wasn't going to go back to the UFC, and all these things have now come true. And it's like, it is nice as well to see like the really nice comments. You can see that people have been, but again, yeah, people always support you when you're winning. Do you know what I'm saying? They always support you when you're winning, but as soon as shit hits the fan, this is the name of the game. I have to admit, even during the dark times, there were a lot of people who did still stick by me, and I really appreciate them, yourself included. So yeah, man, I think I've been an underdog for most of my career. Um, who's this Lithuanian kid that lives in Britain? Like, who is this guy? Do you know what I mean? That's pretty much the thought process. No one's ever given me a fair shot, and I think it helps me, it drives me, because it's been my main motivation. It's mad because against Chadwick and Chuck Campbell, I was the favorite for both of them. Then I was obviously a massive underdog against Pedro, a favorite again against Pauga. But yeah, look, Hamlet, massive underdog. Nasilia, I think that's where I was a favorite, but only because I beat Hamlet. Wojciech, again, massive, massive underdog. And for this one, I'm also a massive underdog. So people tend to underestimate me. They almost think like, I think as well, sometimes I don't live up to my true potential, which is annoying as a fighter, because you want to be able to show off your best skill sets and your best performances and your it's almost like Tyson Pedro. He feels like he was able to show the best of himself in that last fight. This is what I'm still aiming to do. Do you know what I mean? I still have many areas of my game which are still left untapped. You know what I mean? Left at the surface and not yet really spun into existence. So I need to get that out there, and I'm really looking forward to it. But for me, yeah, having people to say, "Oh, you can't do something," or "Oh, mate, you're washed up," or you're probably not going to win, or this or that. It's a massive fuel to my fire, and I love it. And I know people will say things just for the sake of saying something. Some of them may not even have an issue with it, but they just want to, for their own self-confidence and I don't know, maybe for their own ego, they want, "Oh, I said something on the internet." Do you know what I mean? "Oh, I said something here. Oh, so I'm the big man." Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, okay, cool. You said something on the internet. Great. What are you doing with your life? Do you know what I mean? So I'm out here in front of, thousands of people performing and putting it all on the line. Since when's the last time you've done that? Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it used to annoy me and I used to pay attention to it, but now I'm just like, well, it is what it is. Listen, whatever's put in history is always down on paper what the result is and what things are. So the only thing I can control is what the result is. And ultimately, they can't chat anything when you win. So all you got to do is make sure you win. So that's why that fuels me. I need to win. So I will do everything it takes to win.
I remember I don't know how much we should go into this because I feel like it is a conversation for closer to the fight. But I remember you mentioning just briefly that this fight coming up, that you said one line in particular about how you can tell when the UFC are trying to build somebody.
Yeah.
Which yeah, I mean, like it's something that everyone can see what's happening. It's no secret and things like that. Like, does that motivate you as well as like, I'll I'll show you which guy you should be building, because it's not even that dissimilar to the Tyson Pedro fight, right? Like you were saying,
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a guy that some people might know because he's a Cage Warriors champ and he used to be in the UFC. We'll get him in on late notice because it's a decent enough name to keep Tyson Pedro on the card. And then you come in and beat him in front of his home fans, and it's like, what now?
Yeah. Well, potentially, I think the Zach Pelga fight, I didn't fight as well as I would have liked. I mean, I got the win, but I definitely didn't fight the way that I know I can fight. So unfortunately, that one kind of maybe didn't put me in such a good light in terms of everyone. I definitely, I had a good performance. I definitely had him wobbled. I had him rocks. I hit him with some good shots and stuff like this. So, but it definitely wasn't the best performance for sure. Main thing is we got the job done, but I don't think it was like the one that kind of stands out. Like, you know what I mean? So, now obviously I'm going back into enemy territory again, fighting a Brazilian in his hometown. Anytime you're fighting in that person's home country, there is an inevitable advantage already there. Do you know what I mean? Without even putting anything, without even going out there in the cage, there's already an advantage just because of the hometown fans. And obviously, like in London, they want most of the London guys to win because obviously that's their hometown and they can get the crowd going. So it's the same thing here. But it's whether you take that opportunity with two hands and two fists and go out there and really like take it by storm and don't let it affect you, or oh no, I'm fighting in this person's hometown, and you let it affect you. So at the end of the day, it's almost like, yeah, it's an opportunity. Do you know what? It's funny, yeah. It is an opportunity for him. It's to push him, but it's also my opportunity. It's my opportunity to steal the spotlight. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, the factors may be in his favor in terms of environmentally, but they will not be in his favor when we get inside that cage. And that's what I can control, and that's what I can push forward, and make the most of. So an opportunity where you can take the spotlight from someone who is in the spotlight, that's also a great enough opportunity also. And when you turn heads like that in the home country, it's almost a way of earning respect. I remember I went to Team Nogueira ages ago when I was 21. I had to earn everyone's respect in the gym. So this is my way of earning respect in terms of the people by going out and beating their hometown guy.
What was it like training at Team Nogueira at that age?
It was me and my dad. We went there. Honestly, it was a completely different lifestyle. We stayed in a hostel for like 2 weeks. Had to get our own way to training. There weren't that many. We couldn't speak to the taxi people. We literally had to take bikes to get to training. It was just very intense, very intense. Like the sparring was not sparring; it was a fight. And I saw guys get dropped in there, and then just pat them down, off go, get the next one in there. Do you know what I mean? And it was quite cool. I got to spar Rafael Cavalcante. Had Anderson Silva there watching as well, which was mad. So I had the GOAT, outside the ring watching me spar his teammate essentially. I did also spar Nogueira himself. I think Little Nog, I can't remember. I think it was Little Nog. But yeah, I mean, I had a really good experience out there. It was very tough in terms of the lifestyle, like being in a hostel and stuff like this. But and especially at the beginning, they're all trying to take my head off. But then afterwards, like I said, you earn the respect. They then want to show you things. They then want to coach you. They then want to, because they're like, okay, hold on a minute. This guy's not just some bum from London. Like, okay, he's pretty good. So let's help him out a little bit. And that's what I really enjoyed, is that then the camaraderie. You can't speak English. Yeah. Sorry, they can't speak English, but you have an unwavering connection with them after you've been in there trying to like take their heads off. Do you know what I mean? And then trying to take your head off, and you just build like this bond, and you see all the smaller guys and come up to you and me and my dad and like shake our hands and like be all cool with us. That was really cool. I have to admit, going out there and going to a different gym, being the outsider, but also gaining the respect of everyone there. It was a very nice moment leading up to my pro debut.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known that. So I I'm glad that we mentioned that before you do the Brazil trip, so that we can compare those two trips. I don't know. Because you mentioned Anderson Silva. I was thinking about this. Obviously, last week we spoke about who the best middleweight of all time is, Anderson or Israel. I don't know if you saw. I only know about this because I covered it this week. Anderson Silva posted a message after Izzy lost, and I've never seen Anderson Silva like that heated before. But like he was like, "Don't you ever compare yourself to me ever again?" That like I run this. I was like, oh my god, Anderson ain't playing around,
Coming
man.
out there, coming out his shell, innit?
He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that if you asked him like, do you think you're the best middleweight ever? I would have expected him to be very like, like there are some other really good guys, I'd like to think I'm up there, like just seems like that kind of character usually. But nah, he is not playing around, man. He wants that top spot forever.
Well, I can see now how that would be the case. To be honest with you, I mean, obviously, I don't know how many. I can't remember how many defenses we said they both had in a row.
I
But yeah, if
I think I said last week that Silva had 8. He has 10. So Izzy only has half. So
yeah,
and also he has the longest title reign in UFC history because it was
so we got to give it to Silva. Silva's definitely the greatest of all time. I mean,
yeah.
you know, and like I said, it was a bit like, the first run and the second run. Can we really add those two together? The way Anderson Silva was also able to finish it on the ground against, against wrestlers from stand up, how charismatic and flamboyant he was. He was doing a load of crazy things. So, although I 100% really respect Adesanya, he's an amazing athlete and competitor. But I still think, I don't think many middleweights will beat Silva's reign that he had, because I remember that was all I ever heard about in the UFC was Anderson Silva. No one could touch him, and that's the aura. No one can touch you. Do you know what I mean? That's the aura that was being presented. Even when Weidman fought him, that everyone thought it was going to be another blowout. Just even the presence of of what he brought. I don't think that has been felt yet with Adesanya. Do you know what I mean? There's still kind of thoughts, maybe this guy can be, maybe, I don't know, but it seemed like Anderson Silva had that aura of like proper, like I'm talking greatness and superiority to the rest of his division. Obviously, until the thing with Weidman happened.
Yeah, I agree. I think that kind of factor of invincibility, like it
Yeah,
is so rare. Like you're talking maybe John Jones at light heavyweight, GSP in his prime. Like I
yeah,
remember Dan Hardy talking about going into that fight and being like, worst case scenario, I'm gonna get beaten up. Like he's just that good. So
yeah.
funnily enough, we got a title fight this weekend with a fighter that I would say was pretty close to achieving that, especially in her division, Valentina Shevchenko, who recently had that aura of invincibility snapped by Alexa Grasso earlier this year, which I mean, it's an interesting one because there have been a couple of fights in a row where people seem to be doing better against her every time. Like still, I remember the fight before Grasso against Tyler Santos was quite close. A lot of people thought that Santos might have nicked that one. And then Grasso goes in there and it's a competitive fight, but Shevchenko's winning. And then one mistake, that
Yeah.
turning that side kick that she tried, that spinning kick, and takes the back, chokes her out, and suddenly it's like Valentina Shevchenko is not invincible. Like that one moment, it's so crazy. Like it's like the perfect example of how, despite we hold these fighters, these champions up so high that no one is invincible because all it took
Well,
was one badly timed kick.
Well, this is it. This is the unpredictability of the fight game. This is why you can't just automatically assume one person's going to win over another, because anything could happen in there. And also, like depending on what sort of improvements you've been making in between camps and in between fights, like how have you changed as a fighter? Like things may have, like Khalil Roundtree coming in. I keep using that example, but before he fought me, you'd think, oh, well, this is the target, And then he comes in against me, all guns blazing, and now he's carried that on, carried that obviously forward in his next couple of fights and won them all and won them all pretty impressively. So it's like, do you know what I mean? It's this is the unpredictability of the fight game. This is the craziness. This is the wackiness. This is like the I don't even know how to explain it. Like the it's just mad. It's just mad how one person can look so dominant in one fight or in a couple of fights, and then in the next fight look completely different person. It's just like we said, styles make fights, and this is why I think it has a higher level of I think there should be a high level of interest in this more than boxing, because boxing is very one dimensional, whereas in MMA you could lose in so many different ways that it just makes the whole put it into a box off, I can shake it up and see what happens. You know what I mean? Throw it about, and it's an absolute madness, and that's what I love about the game, man.
Yeah, I have no idea how you are going to answer this question, because I think it's kind of an impossible question. But
Okay.
who do you think gains more from the result of the first fight between Grasso and Shevchenko in motivation? Because I, in my head, go, Valentina Shevchenko was a dominant champion, and then over time it seemed like people were getting closer to beating her, right? And then that one mistake, and she doesn't have the belt. I think the Valentina Shevchenko will be a lot, but like we'll see a lot more of what we saw when she was first champion, and like just I expect to see a improved version of Valentina Shevchenko this weekend. But you can also say the same for Alexa Grasso now that she has the confidence of like I dethroned the flyweight champion. Like,
Yeah, I personally think Shevchenko will probably go in with more motivation. You've just lost something, you want it back. You just realize that you can be beaten. You realize that you should probably have more hunger. You know, when you know you can be beaten, you're going to work extra hard not to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I think but it's, from the flip side, oh, I won the belt, now I need to keep it. But I feel like it's almost like, when Ruiz won the belts and he was, kind of like, oh, look at me, I'm the champion. And then next thing you know, Anthony Joshua comes back in the rematch and just, completely kind of outclasses him, really. So maybe the motivation of losing something that you were so dominant in, and then realizing, hold on a minute, like I can be beaten in these areas, will just make her even more sharp to just prove that, you know what, I am a complete fighter. That shouldn't have happened, and I'm going to prove it to you lot. So that's why I think Shevchenko may have the upper edge mentally in this fight.
yeah, I think so too. It's an interesting one in that we have another fight where I think that the odds are going to be a lot closer than what they were for Strickland versus Izzy, because Strickland was a huge underdog. But this is another one where I think another title fight where a lot of people are going to be expecting Shevchenko to win that belt back. It was it was one of the biggest surprises in recent years when Grasso beat her anyway. But I think beating Shevchenko again is like, with
That's a tall
how
task.
with
That is
what we said about her being like back focused on winning that belt back, hungry again to get it back, like that might be more impressive, beating her the second time than submitting her the first time around. Like, that is a tall order.
Yeah. Nah. Look, it's gonna be interesting because Grasso knows that Shevchenko is gonna come out all guns blazing as well. So it's just gonna make it a very interesting matchup. Obviously, I'm very looking forward to see what happens. Personally, in my opinion, I think Shevchenko will win it back, but that's again, like, look, these predictions, it could go one way, it can go the other way. I remember I did one prediction, I was like 3 out of 4. Next one, it was like 2 out of 4. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you don't know. This fight game is mad, but this is why we love it.
Yeah. Also worth pointing out that the co-main event for this card on Saturday night is ridiculous. Kevin Holland versus Jack Della Maddalena is a fight that I can't wait for. That should be an absolute banger. They had really stacked this card at one point. I think it's been quite unlucky with a few cancellations and stuff like that. But it's still pretty solid. Oh, it was supposed to be Shavkat versus Gastelum on the card as well. That would have been a fun one.
There's been a lot of big fights that have sort of fell through. Jack Della Maddalena, he's had quite a quick turnaround. I'm pretty sure he fought quite recently against that debutant, and
Yeah.
now he's back again. Obviously, fighting a big name in Holland. I think, like I say, Madalena's boxing style is going to be. It will be interesting to see how Kevin deals with that. I do think, obviously, if Kevin can take it down to the floor, it'll be his realm. And maybe that like flamboyant kind of unorthodox striking as well. Very interesting, mate. Like I say, I feel like every UFC event always poses a lot of interesting matchups and a lot of questions where you want to tune in, you want to find out what's going to go on.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I'm sure we'll have some talking points for it next week. Also, we'll have to work out. We'll have to have a look at scheduling and whether we're going to be able to do it. But I think maybe first guest next week.
Yeah,
That could be a good one, and we'll work that out.
100%. There are many guests. There is a massive list. There are many people waiting in line. Like, please get us on the Gladiator Diaries. Do you know what I mean? Well, actually, not yet. I've only mentioned it to a couple of people so far. But listen, there's going to be some cool guests. Going to give some broad, different outlooks. Do you know what I mean? Some different perspectives, rather than just me and Carl just chatting crap all the time. Do you know what I mean? Well, it's not crap because it's actual gold, but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to people not seeing this ugly hound of a face all the time. Do you know what I mean? Freshen it up.
Nice.
I'm cheesy as fuck. I'm sorry.
No, I like it. I like it. Quick with the punchlines. We got taglines galore.
Do you know what I mean?
That's why
We've
you
got to
tune
make it
in.
interesting. Got to keep it interesting. Do you know what I mean? It is for the fans. Do you know what I mean? It's not just for me. It's for the fans. Although it is a little bit for me, just to listen back to myself and I said something quite cool there.
I love it. Just bouncing some ideas around before fight week. Thinking of those lines that you're going to go for. I like it. We're just trying things out.
Yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
man.
It's like an open mic before you go up and do the big show. That's what we're
Yeah,
that's what
exactly. You're
we're
just
here
like
for.
throwing ideas. It's like I'm on the beat. Do you know what I mean? I'm hearing a beat and I'm trying to flow with the rhymes, with the. Do you know what I mean? Get the words just bouncing off my tongue like that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, hopefully I can sound more eloquent as the times go on.
I don't think that'll be a problem, mate. But there you go. That's it for episode 4. And yeah, hopefully we'll try and have a guest on. But I'll put a post up on the account if we're able to get that sorted and stuff. So everyone will already know about that before it happens. And we'll try and get some questions in and stuff like that. And yeah, should be good. All right, sweet.
Yeah. Tune in till next time, people.